In this video, we're going to be going from a brand new playthrough all the way to being able to customize one of the new Corvette ships. As soon as we get in the game here, we're just going to be mining up everything that we can. You're going to see down in the bottom right hand corner, the game is going to give you a bunch of different objectives to do. The first objective is going to be to find sodium. So after we've gathered up a bunch of resources, the first thing that we're going to want to do is use our ferrite dust to repair our scanner. With the scanner then, we will be able to scan and find some sodium. Sodium is what we're going to need to replenish our hazard protection. You can see down in the bottom left hand corner there is our hazard protection and our life support. Those are two things that you're not going to want to drain all the way down, because if you do, your character is going to start to take damage. So from time to time, we're going to want to top up our hazard protection and our life support. Right now, we're going to top up our hazard protection with the sodium that we just got. You can do this from in your inventory like I'm doing right here. Or there's also a quick menu where you can go in, select this battery here, and then you can recharge anything that needs to be recharged. You can access the quick menu with down on the D-pad on controller or X if you're on PC. We're going to be collecting up some oxygen as well, because that's what we're going to need to recharge our life support. We're not going to need to recharge our life support right now, but we definitely will later on. Now this blue flower that I just picked up here is actually going to give us a boost to our jetpack. So we're going to be able to fly much further. And as you can see here, I'm using a little trick. It's called the melee boost trick. So all you need to do this trick is hit the melee button and then immediately afterwards hit your boost while you're going forward. And your jetpack is going to give you a nice little boost, and it really helps to give you a nice fast boost when you're trying to get around on foot. Our main priority right now is to get to our ship, repair the ship, and then take off out into space. Once we get to the ship, we're going to check out this broken contraption here. After that, we're going to jump into the ship. Our ship's going to tell us a little story about how it's broken and needs to be fixed. And then we're going to set off on the path to fix our components. We need to fix both the launch thrusters and our engines. So the first thing we're going to need to do is craft the metal plating. That will repair half of our engines. And the other thing we need is the hermetic seal. So we're going to pop back into our ship. The ship is going to tell us that we need a hermetic seal. We're going to jump out, talk to this broken machine again. And it's going to give us an item. Once we activate it, it's going to show us where we can get that hermetic seal. Now, before we leave, we're going to check these containers that's over here next to the flag. These will always have little goodies in there for you. Now, we're going to head off towards our next destination. Along the way, we'll gather up some more resources, and we'll use our scanner from time to time to see if there's anything worth grabbing along the way. Before we get to our destination, there's going to be a storm. This storm is actually scripted. It's basically there just to teach you what you need to do when a storm comes along. In a storm, your hazard protection is going to drain extra fast, so you're going to want to get into some cover as quick as possible. If your ship is close by, it's a great idea to jump into your ship. But in this case, we're going to be able to go to our objective and take some shelter in one of these buildings. Also over here, we're going to check out the broken machinery and get our hermetic seal. Now before we head back to the ship, we're going to create our analysis visor. For this, we're going to need to craft ourselves a carbon nanotube, and then you just make the visor right on your multi-tool. The visor is very useful. You can scan things like plants, animals, and rocks. When you scan things with the visor, you're going to catalog them, so you're basically collecting them. And for scanning it, the game is also going to give you a little bit of units. You'll see throughout this video that we're using the visor all the time. It is a very useful tool. Now we're going to hoof it back to the ship, making sure to use our boost so we're getting back there quicker. You can actually switch back and forth between first person and third person in No Man's Sky. And we do this in the quick menu like you see here. Now that we made it back to the ship, I'm going to quickly show you the difficulty settings that are in the game. If you go to the settings, you can change the difficulty anytime that you want during your playthrough. There are a huge number of difficulty settings, so you can customize your game any way that you want. Now let's finish repairing our engine with the hermetic seal, and then we're going to start to repair our thrusters. First, we're going to make some dihydrogen jelly in our inventory, same way as we made the metal plating earlier. And then the game's going to want us to make a portable refiner. We can place down the portable refiner wherever we want, and this will allow us to refine a variety of resources into other resources. Right now we're going to be refining ferrite dust into pure ferrite, and while the portable refiner is doing its thing, you actually don't need to stay there and watch it. You can go around and do other things. You can mine up some resources and then head back in a minute or two when the refiner is done. And make sure to pick up your refiner when you're done so you don't leave it behind. Alright, so now that we have repaired all of the broken things on our ship, we're going to take off, head out into space, and continue on with our adventure. Out here, the game is going to want you to test different functions of your ship. But before we get too far with that, I'm actually going to go over here and mine up some of these asteroids. Tritium you're going to need to refuel the engines of your ship. So it's never a bad idea, especially early on, to blast some asteroids and get some resources. In addition to the tritium, you're going to be able to get yourself some gold and silver. You can sell those for quite a few units, but they also come in handy for crafting as well. Alright, so now we're going to hit our pulse engine to finish up this current objective. Then we're going to answer a transmission from a mysterious source. And then we'll get our next objective. Now, as we're heading towards our next objective, let's talk about a couple other things that you can do in the quick menu. Again, while you're in your ship, you can also switch between first and third person. And for those of you who like to take cool screenshots, there's a photo mode that you can access here as well. Alright, now we're landing on our second planet. Here we've come across our first Sentinel. Now these guys will actually attack you if you're gathering too many resources and they see you. But most of the time they're not that much of a problem, and even if they attack you, they are pretty easy to get away from. Now when we try to use our visor, it's going to show us a different mode. This will happen from time to time while you're playing the game, especially while you're doing missions. For some reason, No Man's Sky does not like to give you an icon that shows you exactly where your objective is. Instead, they get you to land a little ways away from your objective, and then you got to use this scanner to walk another few feet to the actual objective itself. And you can also manually switch back between this mode and the analysis mode whenever you want. Alright, so the game is going to lead us over here. We're going to check out this broken machinery, and it's going to give us the plans to a very useful tool, the terrain manipulator. Once we're done crafting the terrain manipulator, the game is going to want us to get some copper. But before I head out, I'm actually going to dig up this buried technology because this is very useful stuff that we're going to need a little later on. With our normal mining beam, we cannot dig underground, but as you can see here, with our terrain manipulator, we can. So the terrain manipulator is going to be extremely useful for a lot of things in the game. Right now, we're getting salvage data from this buried technology. And salvage data we're going to need a ton of later on in order to unlock building blueprints that we need for base building. Now before we head over to get the copper, I'm going to hit this save point. This is very good. It actually gives you another discovery. And while we're on this topic, let's go over to the discoveries and upload some. Here on the discoveries panel, you can rename and upload all of your discoveries. So your systems, planets, animals, plant life, even rocks that you find on the planets, you can rename and upload them all. And this will also give us a little bit of nanites. Another very useful thing about the discoveries panel is you can come here at any time, and for any planet that we've discovered, we can see a bunch of different info about that planet. This is actually going to come in very handy throughout your entire playthrough. Now we're going to use our analysis visor to tag the copper. I recommend always tagging icons like this to make them easier to track. Now while we're on our way to the copper, we've actually come across some hazardous flora. If you're not careful, there is a bunch of different hazardous flora that can spawn that will do some damage to your character. You're going to want to stay away from these hazardous floras so they don't hurt you, but you can actually use your mining beam in order to gather oxygen from these plants. A lot of these hazardous plants also have little red balls that you can collect, and that will give you oxygen as well. Now that we've made it to the copper, we're going to use our terrain manipulator to gather this stuff up. You'll use your terrain manipulator to harvest a lot of different resources that are like this, that are embedded into the ground. Copper is just one of many different resources that are like this. Now we need to put down our portable refiner and refine the copper into chromatic metal. We also got silicate powder as well. That's a resource you're going to get whenever you're digging in the ground. You can actually refine silicate powder into glass. Now, glass is not going to be useful right away, but it is a very good thing to have, especially if you're going to be getting into base building. Now, speaking of base building, we're going to head over here and we're going to put down our base computer. This looks really cool over here. It's got a nice view of the planet that's in the background. Chances are you're going to find a better planet later on that you're going to want to have your main base. So right now, especially since you're not going to have much in the way of building blueprints anyway, I recommend that you just build a little tiny outpost. And if you decide that you want to come back to this base and expand on it later on in the future, just know that you can teleport back to any of your bases anytime you want. Alright, so we've just built a little bit of a shack here, and then we're going to get another blueprint. This blueprint is going to allow us to build the research unit to be able to research other blueprints. So then we're going to be able to get more base building blueprints. Now this is definitely not going to be the main way that you get base building blueprints. We're going to be getting those later on. But for right now, we're going to put down our portable refiner again and make pure ferrite into magnetized ferrite. Alright, so let's put down the construction research unit and get the other blueprints that we're going to need. Now there's a few different blueprints that we can get here using salvage data. Using our visor, we can find salvage data all over the place. So I'm going to tag a few of these and then head out and gather up a little more so we can get the other blueprints that we need. So right now, we're just going to need to get the teleporter, the biofuel reactor, and the wire. The teleporter and biofuel reactor just take some simple resources to be able to craft. I'm going to place mine down just outside of my base. And then we need to use the wiring to connect the biofuel reactor to the teleporter. You'll also need to put fuel into the biofuel reactor, so some carbon is perfect for this. Once we fuel it, you can look at the top and see just how long it's going to take before it runs out of fuel, and the biofuel reactor actually lasts quite a while once you get it fueled up. Now the game's going to get us to jump in our ship, and we're going to head up to our first space station. Now, before I go any further in the playthrough, I want to show you the brand new thing that they've added to the game, and that's the ability to build our Corvette ships. I've been waiting so long, and so many players in No Man's Sky have been waiting so long for this feature to be added. It is so awesome that they've added customizable multi-crew ships to the game now. I've been building ships a ton on my other playthroughs, and we're going to make sure to get our own Corvette in this playthrough before the end of this video. Alright, so right now we're going to need to head around and talk to a bunch of different NPCs. It doesn't really matter who you talk to. You just need to talk to 3 different NPCs to progress this mission. Now these NPCs that are around this area will sell you upgrade modules. These are modules that you can upgrade your ship with, your multi-tool, your suit, and vehicles. You're going to need a completely different currency for this. You're going to need nanites. We've already gotten a little bit of nanites, but we're going to be getting even more nanites later on in this video. Now in the very back of the station, there's a couple of different things here that we can look at. There's a station where you can upgrade your ships and scrap your ships so that you can sell those parts for units. There's a spot here where we can actually make custom ships. And then another location over here where we can actually customize our character. Now I'm going to customize this character with a brand new customization option that's been added to the game with the most recent Voyager update. This customization option is absolutely awesome. It's my new favorite customization in the game. You don't need to do anything to get this. Right at the very beginning, you can come to the customization station and be able to customize your character with this exact customization as soon as you get to a space station. Now there are always ships coming and going from the space stations all the time. This is a decent spot to buy a new ship later on in the game. Over here we've got the Galactic Trade Terminal. Here is where you're going to be able to buy and sell things with the units. And right next to that, we've got the teleporter, and we're going to use this to teleport back to our base. As I said before, with these teleporters, you can teleport back to any base that you've ever created, and as long as you have a teleporter at your base, you can then use that teleporter to teleport to any of your other bases or space stations that you've visited before. And then we're going to head into the base computer. Our ship has decided that it's going to hover right in midair like that, so that's cool. Alright, we're going to take off and head to another planet, because at this point we're going to be working towards getting our warp engine and the fuel for the warp engine. Then we're going to be able to head off to other systems in the galaxy. So here at the Crash Freighter, we're going to be able to get the blueprint for the hyperdrive. Also, there's always a couple little rooms that you can get into that are inside of these crashed freighters. These are pretty easy to break into, and they always give you some pretty useful stuff. Now, in order to be able to build our warp engines, we need to get microprocessors. Those cost a pretty good amount of units. Now, you do need salvage data later on to be able to get other blueprints, especially for base building. But I've got a little extra, so I'm going to sell like half of my salvage data in order to buy the microprocessors. Now, in addition to this, we need more chromatic metal. If I was smart, I would have gotten more when I was down on the planet, when I was getting the copper. But this is a good opportunity for me to show you guys that you can actually get a lot of these resources either from the Galactic Trade kiosk itself or from the pilots that are constantly flying into the station. So we got lucky, got some chromatic metal. So now we can install our hyperdrive, but we're still going to need fuel for it, so we're going to need to go get the blueprint for warp cells. Alright, let's keep on going with our objectives. We're going to head down to the next planet. This is sending us to a specific building. Now normally there are purple eggs that are all around this building and you can harvest them, and they actually sell for quite a good amount of units, or you can actually refine them into nanites as well. I always take advantage of these eggs every time I start a new playthrough, but for some reason it is glitched out right now. I don't know if this is just in my game or if this is something to do with the new update, but I could not pick these up at all. Normally they'll come out of the egg and they'll be rolling around on the ground and you'll be able to pick them up, but they seem to just glitch out and like freeze in one spot, and then I just can't pick them up at all. Maybe this is just for my game, or like I said, maybe it's something to do with the update. Hopefully it's a temporary thing, and hopefully you won't come across this in your playthrough. Inside the building, we're going to pick up our warp cell blueprint. You'll also get a blueprint for the antimatter housing and the antimatter, and then once you create both of these, you can put them together to create a warp cell. Now with the warp engine fuel, we're going to be able to head out into space and check out the galactic map. Now at first, the game is going to be getting you to go towards the galactic center. You can see these little faint lines that are going from star to star. You do not need to follow these lines at all. You can actually go into like a free roam mode and pick any sort of star that you want to go to. Later on the galactic map, we'll be able to switch between different missions that we're doing, and these kinds of lines will direct you straight to the mission location. Now in our next system, we can go around and explore the different planets if we want, but the only thing that you actually need to do here is go down to the mission objective, and you're just going to need to interact with an alien ruin, and it's going to give you another warp cell, and then we can move on to our next system. Again, we can pick any system that we want to go to. I am specifically going to pick a dissonant system for this one, because the dissonant system is really going to come in handy for us being able to farm a ton of units. And we're really going to need a lot of units if we're going to be getting our Corvette. But right now the game is sending us to an area where there's a crashed ship. It always sends you to a crashed ship at this point in the game. We're going to repair the contraption that's next to the crashed ship. It's going to give us a very useful blueprint in the advanced mining laser. This is something that's going to come in very handy. We're going to need to go up and get some wiring looms from a space station. But other than that, it's just going to take a hermetic seal and a carbon nanotube, so those things are going to be easy to get. But also, definitely do not ignore this crashed ship here. I don't really know how you could ignore this crashed ship, but you want to go over to the crashed ship and claim it for yourself. You actually don't need to repair this thing at all. If you really like the ship, maybe you might want to repair it, but I recommend not repairing it at all. And then once we get up to a space station, we can actually scrap this ship for some units. Now, once we get up into space, we're going to get contacted again, and then the anomaly is going to appear in front of us. The anomaly is the multiplayer hub for No Man's Sky. If you have multiplayer turned on, which I don't in this particular video, but if you did have multiplayer turned on, you're going to see a whole bunch of other players and a bunch of other ships in the anomaly. You can get multiplayer missions here. There's a whole bunch of useful NPCs, and a lot of the story brings you back to the anomaly time and time again. Now here we're going to go over and we're going to talk to Nada and Polo. You can have a chat with these guys, get a little bit of lore, and then the game is going to direct you around the anomaly and show you some useful areas that you're going to want to check out. Now the area that I want to focus on right now is an area that you should be coming back to regularly during your playthrough. This is a place where you can get a ton of useful, unique upgrades for your suit, multi-tool, vehicles, ship. You can also unlock an extra inventory slot here for your suit. So for every system that you visit, you can actually unlock an inventory slot in both the anomaly and on the space station. You can get tons and tons of building blueprints here. In the construction modules here, you can actually unlock vehicles if you want to check out those. Lots of awesome, useful things in this area. Now, once we finish up chatting with the NPCs here and checking out the anomaly, we're basically done with the tutorial of the game. And then we can move on and go ahead and explore the galaxy or continue on with the storylines if that's what you want to do. Now, this spot right here is called the Nexus. You can get your multiplayer missions here. You can also do them solo if you want. They're no problem to do solo. But if you want to try and find a random person to do the missions with, or if you've got a buddy that's playing with you, you guys can do all of these multiplayer missions for some great rewards. Over here is the Quicksilver vendor. You can get a bunch of stuff for Quicksilver over here. You can get Quicksilver from the multiplayer missions as well. And he has other rewards, such as expedition rewards. You can see here that I have a ton of expedition rewards unlocked from previous expeditions. And anytime there's an expedition, just over here to the left of this guy, this is the terminal where you can access expeditions in your current save. Expeditions usually last for a few weeks and usually give some amazing rewards. I'm really looking forward to this new expedition. I think it's probably going to be a really good one, incorporating the new Corvette ships. Once you've been playing No Man's Sky for a while and you're comfortable with the game, I highly recommend getting into an expedition if there's one available. So after we leave the anomaly, the game is going to prompt you to continue on with the story. So this is the Artemis storyline. The Artemis storyline is basically the main storyline of the game. The story is pretty good, gives quite a few good rewards, and it unlocks some really amazing things as well. Now, before we end the video, we need to unlock our Corvette. So in order to get the Corvette, we're going to need a lot of units. So right now we're going to use my favorite unit farming method to get ourselves tens of millions of units. My favorite way to earn units in the game is to farm Sentinel ships. First, we're going to need to install our advanced mining laser. Now the carbon nanotubes and their hermetic seal, that's easy enough to craft. And for the wiring looms, we just need to go to a galactic trade and buy them. With the advanced mining laser installed, we want to find the planet that says dissonance detected. These planets can only be found in dissonant systems. We just need to go down to the dissonance planet and find these Sentinels here. Now these Sentinels are not going to fight back, but once you attack them, you're going to attract attention from other Sentinels. This can get a little bit dangerous, but as long as you take out these guys pretty quickly, you can run away from the other Sentinels and escape them. You can take out these guys just using your mining beam, or you could install the bolt caster onto your multi-tool, which is much more effective. So there is a specific thing that we're looking for to drop from these Sentinels. There is 2 different things that you're going to get to drop. Most of the time you're going to get mirrors. I was actually unlucky and I got mirrors 10 times in a row. And on the 11th one, I actually got the thing that I was looking for, which is the echolocator. Now while I was running around, I harvested up a bunch of these large purple crystals as well. These are radiant shards. We're going to need both the radiant shards and the mirrors later on. With the echolocator, we're going to activate it and it's going to show us the location of a camp. There's a couple really cool things that we can get here. A multi-tool is actually one of them. But first we're going to go over to this terminal. We got to do a little bit of a math problem. So here you can see that there's so many different numbers. We got 12 minus 3, 3 plus 12, and 3 plus 1. So then we're going to go into input override glyphs. And then basically we just go top to bottom. So the top one is going to be 9, and then 15, and then 4. This will unlock the terminal for us. Then we can deactivate the multi-tool seal to get access to the multi-tool that's right over here. Now these are actually very good multi-tools. I'm going to grab this multi-tool, and if you want to switch back and forth between your multi-tools, you can do that in the quick menu as well, just like you see here. Then we're going to head back to the terminal and we're going to locate the dissonance spike. This is going to show us exactly where a Sentinel crash ship is. Now before we head out, we're going to put down a base computer here. This way we're going to be able to see the icon for the base so that we can easily find our way back, and we can also teleport back here at any time that we want. Now let's head over to where the Sentinel crash ship is. This is a really cool looking one. I really like this ship. If I found an S-Class in this, I would definitely be keeping it. Right now, we're going to grab all the items that's on the ship, and then we're going to need to repair it. So one of the items that we got off of it was a brain. We're going to need to activate this brain, and it's going to show us where we need to go next. We're going to head over to these other alien ruins over here, and this bot is going to convert the brain that we currently have into a brain that we can actually use for our Sentinel ship. Heading back, we've got all the things that we need to repair this, because all we need is the mirrors, which we got a ton of from destroying those Sentinels, and the radiant shards, which are all over the place on these kinds of planets. We're going to claim the Sentinel ship. We're going to head back to the base, use the terminal again to locate another dissonance spike. Then we can head over to this new dissonance spike and repair and claim another Sentinel ship. Now you can't do this infinitely because eventually you're going to run out of Sentinel ships that are on the planet, but you will be able to do this a few times before you run out of ships. The really good thing about these Sentinel ships, even though they're C-class, is that they are worth a ton of units. Now we're going to go back up to Space Station, scrap these ships, and then we're going to have more than enough units to be able to build our first Corvette. So this is the station that we were at before. This is the station where you can scrap ships, but you can also upgrade ships here too. Right now we're only interested in scrapping these ships. We're going to have a ton of units just from scrapping these two ships. One's worth 18 million units and the other one is worth 22 million units. You can also sell the upgrades that you get from them for nanites as well. We're going to make sure to get our suit inventory slot here at the station. We're going to go over and sell all the scrap that we just got from scrapping the ship. And then we're going to go and build our first Corvette ship. So right now I'm going to purchase the modules that we need from the money that we just got. Then I'll put together a basic Corvette just to show you guys what you can do with the basic modules that you can get here. There are so many more modules that you can unlock besides the ones that you can purchase here. I've quickly put together a Corvette using the basic modules that you can buy here. These are just the basic parts that you can buy for units, but you can actually unlock a crazy amount of parts that you can put onto these Corvettes, and you can make them look so freaking cool. But I hope you found this video useful. If you did, it'd be awesome if you'd hit that subscribe button. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, stay where you're at, and I'll come where you too. Later, everyone.